And we got the man of the hour with us today. Like we said, you guys, something came up, but he's on today. He wants to chop it up with you guys, give you guys just a little bit more breadth and depth with precious metals, because like we said, the exposure to it is everything. We're going to give people just a little bit of time to get into the room. Hubby is going to introduce Crypto Rick. Many of you are very familiar with him. Many of you follow him. But for the newbies in the room, we do want to give a nice little introduction.
Yeah, so this is Ricardo Hamilton, aka Crypto Rick.
Crypto Rick.
So I've been I think I came across Crypto Rick in 2019. 2019, because I remember it was right before the pandemic took off. Excuse me if I can say that word. And so I've been riding with him since then, been following him on Facebook.
Him and Mike Tharp.
Mike Tharp. Shout
Big
out to the
Mike.
big homie Mike Tharp. And see him jet setting, moving around, making moves, doing all the things that we should be out here doing. And he's setting the standard, being the example of moving around, working hard.
And planting those flags.
Yeah, planting those flags. And this is the big homie, the legendary Ricardo Hamilton. And we gonna chop it up today about a variety of things. We want to get into some things that we didn't get to last show about precious metals that he has information on. We do want to ask a few questions about Bitcoin that I wondered what he thought and get his thoughts on certain things. And so that's it, man. So what's up? What's up, Rick?
Man, you recently just came back from the Dominican Republic, was it?
No, Belize.
You were in Belize?
Yeah, I'm in Belize.
Business or pleasure?
Both.
Yeah. Usually it is for business, right? So I was like,
No, yeah, Belize was beautiful, and thank you for the intro, by the way. And I'm always humbled, man, and honored to come on the show and be with you guys and just add value. That's what really my life has been about. I just want to add value to people's lives from the information that I found out, especially dealing with assets like gold and silver. And that has gravitated. People have, been tapping into that frequency of what I've been saying. And we've been helping a lot of people, and I've been having success in the process. And we're just getting started. And we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, everybody who participates. One thing about, what I've been doing and what I've been sharing, it's not just me that wins. It's everybody that has been taking advantage of the information and acquiring the asset. And that's what I love. I will never have to, wake up in the middle of the night of a phone call because somebody tells me that gold and silver is worth nothing. I would never have to worry about that. And that feels good. So, but yeah, I'm happy, honored, and Belize is beautiful. Getting some land out there, and yeah. And we just keep growing. We just keep growing. Each one teach one, and we get better with time.
Okay. Well, I'll start here because I seen some interesting things. I watched it live earlier this afternoon, and you said a couple things that I said, man, I should ask him about that on the show, because one thing you said that I don't think that I say enough, and that's my fault, right? But you were speaking on how gold and silver are tier one assets.
Yes. Don't say that enough.
Yeah, I don't say that enough, if at all. I can't remember the last time I said that. So for people who don't understand, could you explain to them what tier one assets are?
Yeah, so the central bank for central banks, right? So we talk about the Fed and there's other central banks around the world, but the Bank of International Settlements is the central bank for central banks, and they set the rules and standards, and they have tiers, classifications for different assets. And gold was a tier 3 asset up until I don't know, maybe a few years ago or something like that. I don't know the exact date. But they recently changed it to where gold is a tier 1 asset, which means that's the top of the class. That's the best, which essentially means there's zero risk associated with it. Okay. And it means that it's accepted 100% for value. So if you just go into Google and you type in, gold and silver, tier 1 asset, you would see that zero risk, accepted 100% for value. And so, when we're talking about, international trade and commerce and assets, tier one is the best and the top, and that's what gold is now classified as. And I get excited, and I always kind of say that to people because there are people who are risk adverse. There are people who worked hard for their money. They don't want to speculate. They don't want to be exposed to a lot of risk. But you have to do something with your dollars. You can't just hold on to them because of inflation and everything else. So you want to take your dollars and put them somewhere where they're not exposed to risk, but still give you the ability to have your money grow for you. And that's gold and silver. So some people say gold and silver is an investment, but I don't really consider gold and silver an investment. I consider it a savings. It's a way to save. Investment stipulates risk. I can lose my money if I invest, but gold and silver will never go to zero. It's God's money. From Revelations, Genesis to Revelations, gold and silver is mentioned in the Bible hundreds of times. It's been money since the times of Egypt. It's money all over the world: Africa, Europe, Asia, the Americas. Here in the United States, Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, gold and silver is legal tender. It's money. So that's what gets me excited about when I'm really helping people understand that you save your money in gold and silver, and those are some of the reasons why.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that tier one.
I'm gonna steal that crypto. For real, it's a great way to save money in a world where you cannot save the fiat like the boomers did, like your grandmama did, like Big Mama did. And people are used to doing things traditionally. So they're still trying to save money that's just eating away. Right? Your 100,000 it already isn't 100,000, it's 60,000 or whatever.
We're gonna go to that too. And Ricardo, from time to time, when I go into my Wells Fargo account,
not your Wells Fargo account,
they'll offer you, like, it'll pop up.
Oh, the investment.
Would you like to start a savings account? I'm like, are
you
man?
Yeah.
When I'm save my money at Wells Fargo.
But he's right. Chase don't ask that, but Wells Fargo.
They always ask that. I just like,
well, the worst part about it is that when that pops up, or when they offer you a CD, and then you look at the rate that they're going to give you, and for the intelligent person, when you understand what the inflation rate is out here, it's a joke. It's like, why would you even offer that product? They're offering you nothing essentially. 0.025%, or even on a CD, if it's even if it's a 1.25% or whatever it is that they're offering on CDs now. When you look at inflation, and this government is printing $1 trillion every 100 days. The national debt is increasing by $1 trillion every 100 days. And you just have the world dumping dollars in treasuries. It's a joke. You can't save in dollars because dollars are not a savings instrument. Why would you save dollars when they don't save value? Dollars are for spending. You spend dollars. You don't save them.
When you look at I don't know, the Fed. It's the Fed. Yeah, it's the Fed. They come out with this CPI index. I don't know. They try to say inflation is a certain number, maybe 7%, 8%. And then you have people like Michael Saylor, who says he thinks it's at least 20%, if not higher.
Right.
How do you see that? What do you think? Because we're not in the United States for a long time. Like, as you go in your day-to-day dealings, how do you see inflation? Do you think it's just 8%, or you think it's higher than that?
Well, it definitely is higher than that, and they're getting good at hiding inflation. They actually export inflation, so to keep the inflation low for us here in the United States. But even with the massive amount of debt creation and printing that they're doing, it's getting harder and harder. And they fudge the numbers. They manipulate the numbers. They're always adding or subtracting to how they equate to the number that they're getting to. So there's different inflation metrics. You got the core CPI and CPI, and they don't include gas and food, and so it's all like this psychological game. But inflation is much higher than what they're telling us. It's much higher, and but this is why it's important that people hedge against this inflation by saving in assets like silver and gold.
Silver and gold, yes, indeed. So when you when you see, how should I put it? So if you had some silver and gold, right? I'm always big on the gold to silver ratio, which it must have changed because silver went to 28, but it was hanging out at 90 to 1. It might
Yeah,
be in the 80s to 1 something now. Do
yeah.
you recommend people buy gold or keep on buying silver until that ratio comes down?
Yeah, no, because of the ratios are high is why you want to get more silver than gold.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because silver is, so that they will have to, adjust and correlate for that historic ratio and a lot of other dynamics as well. There's, gold is stored. It's used in jewelry, and but it's mainly stored, in vaults and things of this nature. But silver is an industrial metal. It's not just sitting; it's used, and it's used in small amounts, and then it kind of gets thrown away. But there's less available above ground silver, and the demand for silver is increasing in this technological revolution and things with solar and healthcare, clothing. I mean, it has thousands of uses. And so it's much better. If you're trying to decide, do I save in silver or do I save in gold? You are going to experience way better gains in silver than you will in gold. Silver is the most undervalued physical asset on the planet, and it's definitely should be 80% if not more in regards to your ratio of your silver and gold holdings, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so I had came across an article not too long ago, and it was an article about um, this being, let me get this right, the 10th year that there was an under amount of silver mined, and it's not being mined at a fast enough rate. And so part of the article, silver's mined down here in Peru, Mexico, and I think it's the highest where silver comes from the most. And they shut down the mines because of what was it, worker safety,
Yeah,
environmental thing.
environmental issues
So the mines were shut down for quite some time. So then that added to the fact that they aren't bringing out enough silver
for the demand.
for the demand. And so, do you ever see that, or do you see that as a problem moving forward?
Are you seeing issues in the supply chain since you kind of deal in wholesale silver and gold?
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, supply chains are definitely especially when you consider things like that what happened with the pandemic, or when you consider even a silver squeeze. If really enough people, which doesn't take too much, if enough people actually went out here and decide to get silver and get physical silver, we would change the world, because these markets are hypothecated off of uh, for, let's say, with the COMEX, right? Every ounce of silver, they created 100 contracts. Um, they there isn't that much silver out here. So I would say this. I'll say I'm bullish in those scenarios, because it's just like the laws of supply and demand. If the demand is high and the supply is low, the price goes up. That's one of the things that people getting excited about with Bitcoin. The supply is going down and demand is going up. Um, so there's enough silver, I would say, maybe to get done what needs to get done, but it depends on what's the price of the silver.
Yeah,
But I do foresee a relatively, a future where if you don't have it now, you might not be able to buy it. It's such a strategic metal that you might not just be able to get it. It's in a national interest to no longer provide it to people, only to provide it to industry for development and research. Either that, or you will just get priced out. It just will cost so much.
yeah,
It's this is the world is changing. We're no longer we're moving away from a debt-based fiat system where debt and credit, we're actually going towards a resource-based system. it's
yes,
it's about the commodities. It's about those rare earth minerals, the gases. That's what it's about. And so that's why we see countries like BRICS and everything in Zimbabwe backing their currency by gold. They came out with a new currency backed by
yeah,
gold. We see a
hmm,
lot of the BRICS countries. We see what's going on in Niger and other countries around in Africa, where they're no longer exporting their rare earth minerals, and they're keeping them in house. And this is what's going to back the value of future currency. So You know, that's why it's so important that people, you know, get it and get it now while you still can, especially at these prices, because the rigging and manipulation will come to an end. Um, and, you know, I tell people all the time, I'd rather be 1 year or even 2 years too early than 1 day too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Did you need to read any comments?
I've been chatting with the cousins because I don't want to break
okay.
crypto Rick's. He's flowing right now.
Okay.
So I don't want to break his flow.
Yeah, and I also heard another thing too. I spoke to someone in the silver industry. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but they say there's a certain price of silver where it becomes no longer worth it to mine it, so that the price must go up so that the mining can continue. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, we're familiar with that. So when they were, you know, like I said, the market, the silver market or the metals market, banks like J.P. Morgan and central banks constantly are manipulating and trying to rig the price down. And while at the same time, by the way, they're buying it up. So J.P. Morgan themselves, they're sitting on over 600 million ounces of silver. You know, but at the same time, their traders, you know, have been fined and have went to jail for rigging the precious metals market. But the precious metals market is a paper derivative market. You know, it's not, you know, the necessarily all the physical metal is there. And you know, so we will see shortages, you know, when it comes to silver and people being able to get it. But yeah, they, you know, that the COMEX and the way they're doing things, you know, we're seeing a total shift in the way the markets are moving with metals. And this time is different. A lot of people are saying that the time that we're in now looks like before, where, you know, metals were moving and they suppressed it back down. But yeah, but the miners are making money now. They're going to be making money as it goes higher. But yes, there's a cost of production. You know, the reason why people, you know, like Bitcoin is valuable because there's work being done. The you know, the machines are, you know, doing the calculations, the hashing and everything else. Well, same thing with silver. Somebody has to go down and dig, you know, and they have to refine it, you know, and there's a cost to that. And if the cost to that is and the price of the metal is almost the same, it's not worth it. You know, it's not worth it. And so you know, those are just some of those dynamics, you know, to consider when you're buying, you know, and where's the trend and the trajectory for the market.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because you know, I've heard a lot of complaints about that, and I said, well, I figured the price will have to go up, and it just started.
Yeah, that's all.
Started running. I said, okay,
It makes it more valuable.
Yeah, I don't watch the price every day anymore like I used to, you know, because I already know it's gonna go up.
But
So
I think that's what some people are like, who are like trying to buy mining stocks. You know, if you're buying mining stocks and the miners aren't able to make any money on the metal because they've been rigging the price down, and it's, you know, the expense to produce something is equal to your profit. You know, I mean, then that's that you don't want to invest in that stock. Ain't no money.
That's the
So right now, mining stocks probably are undervalued because of you know, where silver and gold is going now, and where we believe they're going to be relatively soon. So there, you know, if people who do stocks, you know, you might want to start looking at some mining stocks and get ready for the explosion in that, because as these assets go up, the stocks is going to go up as well for those companies.
And like you said, I've heard people say, people in the silver end, you talk about the squeeze, the COMEX. They always say if more people stood for delivery, you know, you could stamp down that rehypothecation.
Right.
And but the funny thing is, I have read on there, because I didn't know this. They said they reserved the right to cash you out in fiat currency if they don't have the silver that you stood for delivery on.
Yeah, that's why we don't play around in that market. Yeah.
Yeah, the COMEX market, man. Yeah, they play games over there with you. They play games with you.
Yeah, that's why we tell people to get the physical metal. You don't want no contracts, no certificates, no IOUs. You want to, you know, it's just like we say, right. Oh, you silver, right? You know, but you know what we say in crypto? We say it, not your keys, not your crypto, right?
Right.
Well, it's the same thing with metals. If you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Don't own it.
You know. So
Dang, that's funny though.
yeah,
But you know what, too? Andy Scheckman talks about a lot when we talk about the manipulation, the amount of unreported movement in the megatons out east to other countries and stuff like that. And then, like, I would just come across this random article that'll say something like 6 megatons of gold disappeared from, the CME or the LMB in London. And you're like, how does 6 megatons of gold disappear? And it doesn't disappear. You have these other countries buying like like water, right, during a tornado or during a hurricane, and
yeah.
nobody's really reporting it. And I always kind of ask myself, and I asked Andy, like, why isn't it reported? Why is it okay for 22 megatons of gold to just exchange hands from, the London bullion or wherever they are to somebody, even if it's a nation state, right, a country, and it's just like, yeah, but we don't tell anybody that that's what happened to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's so much manipulation, there's so much games, there's so many things that they're doing, and moving money around. And then the average person, people barely understand how the stock market works. I mean, like they only know how their car works, they don't understand how the banking system works. So there's a lot, that these institutions and these central banks, and governments are doing. But it is crazy to hear, stuff like that. Like, how does this stuff just go missing? That doesn't make sense. Like, but yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying.
Well, Ricardo, we homeschool our children,
Yeah.
and sometimes we speak with other children. How important do you think it is to put things like gold and silver, how money works, the difference between fiat currency, in an early part of the curriculum? Because they have these set curriculums. You got to have this class, biology, what else, trigonometry, and all these other classes. When it would have probably behooved you to learn about gold and silver early, early on.
Like
And
our 6-year-old knows that silver
yeah,
and gold are sound money.
yeah. So, is there a way? Do you see a wave or a movement of maybe being able to get that into the school curriculum, or you think they just don't want it out in public schools,
They
and
don't
that's
want
something you
that.
got to just teach your children yourself?
Yeah, I definitely would say it's something you got to teach your children yourself, because
Oh,
teaching, they don't want us to have silver and gold. It takes money out of their system. It literally, they want your money in the stock market because they can manipulate the market. They can confiscate your wealth. All this is, it's the system that we're in is like a slavery 2.0 system. It's, they just tax you and keep wealth away from you and move it to the 1%. But it's critical. When I say if you didn't come from a wealthy family, there's the opportunity to make sure that a wealthy family comes from you. Well,
yeah.
teaching your children and the youth, the younger generation, your loved ones, is probably just as important as you accumulating it yourself. Because a lot of us are doing this with the idea that our loved ones will be able to benefit from what
Right.
we're doing. We'll be able to create a legacy. But if they're not properly taught and they don't
That-
understand what it is that they have, and why they should hold it, and especially in contrast to a debt-based fiat system, and purchasing power. Most people don't consider purchasing power. They're like, okay, well, I got silver, I got dollars, and then, well, what is the purchasing power of the silver a year from now, and what is the purchasing power of the dollar? And when you look at it that way, then you're saying, okay, it comes down to the value, and obviously the silver has a greater value. And then even when you look at the charts, if you look at the purchasing power of the dollar since 1913, it's just down. It's lost over 98% of its purchasing power. But then if you look at gold and silver over the same time, it's in an uptrend. It's in an upchart. So
It's an
yeah,
uptrend.
it's crucial. It's critical that we teach the youth. But unfortunately, we're not going to see it in school, I don't think, anytime soon. But it starts at home. It starts at home.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
because we homeschool, we're in like different homeschooling groups, so we do see a good amount of people out there homeschooling. And and so we always just mention, they want to teach financial literacy, which is also good to be taught, right?
Yeah.
But we want to just interject the gold and silver part of it, the Bitcoin part of it, so that they can kind of zoom in on that too, because it is crucial to know about that, especially in the times we're in. So I had a question for you. Me and
Yeah.
Aaron, we were talking about this the other day, and I just wondered what your thoughts on this was. So say you own your home, right? And you want to say, you know what? I want to redo the kitchen. It's going to add value to the home,
Put some equity in it.
put some equity into the home. Now, you might be cash light. You say, well, I'm going to go sell, I don't know, 200 ounces of silver so that we can get this job done and add equity. Now, we could see that as one asset moving to another. But would you, instead of taking out a loan, that's what I forgot to say. Instead of taking out a loan. So would that be something you would be like, well, yeah, you should do that? Or you say, nah, just hold on to your silver. It'll be worth more than the equity of a new kitchen in your home.
I mean, there are a lot of dynamics and factors, obviously, given the housing market, interest rates, the loan to value ratio and things of that nature. But I would say the beautiful thing about the gold and silver is at least you have it and have that option. It's better to have that challenge than you want to remodel your kitchen and you just don't have it at all, or you have to take out a loan.
Get a loan.
Well, you can't get a loan.
Oh, you can't get a loan. You just got that old kitchen.
Right. If you can't get the loan, right. But you have it. So at least you have that option. And, gold and silver is easily liquidatable, what I mean? And so, it's up to the person at that time, but you have it, for what you want it for. And that's good. So if you did want to, liquidate your silver to remodel your kitchen, which could be looked at as added value to your home, which is a asset, for a lot of people in some ways, and it can be done. Yes, it can be done.
And you don't have to pay the interest back, because if you took out a HELOC to do it, in a market like this, your interest rate can be nuts.
Yeah. So
they were talking about people who have mortgages. When the feds did the interest hike, their mortgages went up another 7%.
wow.
Like whatever your mortgage was and whatever your rates were, which probably weren't that good to begin with, went up an additional up to 7%. So some people are like barely making it. So, I mean, regardless of what the scenario is, just like he was saying, at least you can borrow from yourself and just cut the middleman out, get it done, and you don't have to pay anybody back, and you certainly don't have to pay back any ludicrous interest rates.
This is true.
Which just bogs you down even more.
But this is the utility of it, and this is why you should have it.
Like you added value to your house, but when you did the HELOC, you also put yourself further into debt.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like this weird feedback system, whereas the way you said, however you want to do it, whatever the scenario is.
Yeah.
The idea is that you are your own bank. And when you felt like you needed the funds to go from one asset to the other, regardless of what the asset is, that was the end of that.
So you're saying, asset to assets, but you're saying, Rick, because I'm getting a little older, if I wanted to liquidate some silver and go get a Porsche, that's a bad idea.
That is a depreciating.
That's a bad idea.
I wouldn't do that. That's why I was kind of like hesitant, and because the house is a liability until it's an asset, which is at the point that you sell it. And so sure, you can remodel it and everything, and it goes up. But then if you're at the point of a 2008 where you're about to be underwater, and you just took your silver and you put it into the house, and maybe it might not have been the best decision at that time. So there's some variables into it, but no, you definitely don't want to take an asset.
But that's what he said. He said I didn't have to go back. I just stepped back and Porsche.
That's what Nas said.
That's what he said. That's what
Nas has been.
That's what Nas told me.
4 times than not. So don't listen to Nas for his 16 foreclosures. He's just making a joke. But that's a good point to make, right? Because some people do get a little fuzzy with that. Don't take your asset that's all asset and then turn around and buy, especially liquidated. When I say liquidate, like you just emptied the whole coffer for
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah,
appreciating items.
Yeah, yeah, you
yeah,
got it.
I wouldn't sell all the silver at all. And then some people will ask, well, how much silver should I get? And I just tell people, whatever you're saving in cash, you put it in silver. I mean, you can easily convert it back because it's liquidatable. You understand? But the thing is you don't save dollars. Dollars are not for savings. They lose value. You save it in silver. And then savings generally is 6, 12, 24, 36 months. Like you're saving it over
Mhm.
time. Now, that's different from an emergency fund where you just try and put your hands on something, emergency comes up, then you leave that in cash. I have an emergency fund in cash, few grand in the safe,
Right.
but your savings, that's, over a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
And that needs to be in silver.
Okay.
Silver gold, yeah.
And when people ask us that, we typically tell them, especially the newbies who are just getting started, even if you just did 1 ounce a month,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
You're
That's
ahead
not
of the
even
masses. You're so far
$30.
ahead of the masses. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then we tell them like at the end of the year, you're gonna have 12 ounces. And then 3 years from now, you're gonna have 36 ounces. And we keep playing the exponential game with them.
And the funny thing is, um, as you get older, time passes faster, it appears to be. But your silver will stack up so quick, you'd be
You'd
surprised.
be shocked.
You'd be like, dang, I got a whole bunch of silver. Like just
Yeah.
over like 3 year period or something. If you
Yeah.
just stay diligent, you'd be like, dang, I got a lot. And you feel good about yourself. And then
Like,
Yeah.
it make you want to get more and more
Yeah.
and more. And then you
Yeah.
work harder to get more and more and more. That's why I say people get started. That first ounce you get, you're like, man, I just got 1 ounce. You kind of like, that's all I got. But then, over time, then you
Yeah.
start stacking it up on the
Yeah.
table. You
Yeah.
looking at it, you're like, yeah. You be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah. But like,
so
you're not a
go ahead,
you,
man.
you ain't a king. You ain't a king or a queen if you ain't got no gold and silver. Because all kings and queens had gold and silver. And when you see that silver sitting there, you feeling better. And I had friends, who live close to me, and they've been saving in silver with me, and they get excited, when they look at their silver and see how much they've saved, and they know the value of it, and they see the silver going up. I got people who have families that have saved more money than they've ever saved in their life because it was in silver. Because it's hard to save cash. Not even just for all the variables I mentioned, just
Yeah.
discipline. And as soon as you feel like you deserve it, you might dip into the savings a little bit. You tell yourself, I'm gonna put it back, but for you to liquidate that silver, there's an extra step. So you might be like, it ain't that serious, I'll just
Yeah.
keep the
Yeah.
silver,
Let Freedom Ring. That's one of our supporters. He's been with us from like episode 1.
Okay.
We at episode 139.
Awesome.
So Let Freedom Ring is asking, I think it's a very good question.
Yeah.
For those who don't have access to the chat, are you saying that silver is a better store of value of Bitcoin? And my answer was no, it's just another way to save. We do talk about different great diversified ways to preserve your purchasing power, to find value outside of fiat, because again, the fiat with, like we talked about earlier, you have all these nations that are dumping it. All those worthless dollars are going to come back to shore at some point. We talk about crypto. Rick just mentioned it maybe about 10 minutes ago. Since 1913, it's lost over 98% of its value. You can find that value again in precious metals in addition to Bitcoin. Right. So that's a funny question that people ask us all the time. And it's like, you can have both.
Yeah. You have
Right?
both.
You can have that and the altcoins that you love. You don't
Yeah.
have to like choose between which one you want or what have you. So like we say, because we are older and we have hella kids, we do like to kind of mitigate some of Bitcoin's volatility by also having silver,
I think
by
what
also having
I
it.
think what happens is with Bitcoin, if you go back 5 year charts and stuff, and then you overlay that on a silver 5 lay chart, and you had say $10,000 and you put it in silver, and then or you could have put it in Bitcoin, you could see how much money you could have missed out on. And people, because people see that, and they're like, well, Bitcoin's gonna go up another
1,000%.
right at the end of the year. It's up 200% or something, and silver's up 11%. And you're like, oh, I got my money sitting over here. I probably should have it over here. And a lot of people ask that question, but investors, you do have to diversify your portfolio.
Yes.
So you got to have some allocated to silver and gold. You can have some allocated to Bitcoin.
The other coins you like, your XRPs, your
And then if
Matics,
you're in the
whatever.
stock market, real estate, you got to allocate your funds. Don't put them all in one place. They will teach you that. This is financial advice, but if you went to a financial advisor, this is what they would advise you to do. So,
Which I would agree with that point
yeah, they
from the
will
financial
advise you to
advisor.
do.
But two, we also say like Bitcoin is digital. If you're an altcoiner and you love altcoins, those are digital. For us, like we said, who have children, having that tangible tier one commodity in the house for them to be exposed to is priceless. Like I don't, like I said, with the 6 year old understands when he sees silver and gold, he knows that that's sound money. That's what he calls it. He says, "Oh, that's sound money." If you show him a quarter, he'll be like, "How old is it?"
I know.
And
Yeah.
if it's really, really old, then he'll say, "Yeah, that's sound money." And if it's
Mhm.
new, if I said this coin is from last year, he'll say, "Mommy, that don't have no sound." So
That's
just
right. I like
kind of
that.
teaching them, like,
Yeah,
no money,
either your
mommy.
money
That
got
I don't know
sound
what
to
he
it
thinks
or you
sound
don't. I
is,
like
but
that.
he's like, that don't have no sound to it, mommy.
And like you
Yeah, I
said
like,
earlier, it depends on a lot of things. Your income, your salary, your age. Because you said if you're risk averse,
Yeah,
you might just feel safer over here.
yeah,
yeah.
It,
So what I would say is that, like I said, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, I put them in investment category. Investment means that there's a chance that I can lose my money. The only other thing I would say with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as well is that um, I'm exposed to environments and situations that I can't control. If there's a cyber attack or EMP or something happens to the grid, or they pass an executive order and they only allow you to access certain sites, or we utilize the internet, and the same companies, these major companies, they're providing us the internet service, and next thing you know, we're in tyranny now. We don't got access to the internet, and then what happens to your ability to access your assets? So those are some of the some of the risks and exposure to just being too heavy digital. You want to have a balance, like you said. You want to have some digital and you want to have some physical, because we don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball on how the world is going to roll out as we're looking. But what we are seeing cyber attacks. We are seeing grids go down. We are seeing them trying to control the way we on and off ramp into crypto. We are seeing, this attack in our ability to utilize certain wallets. So there's just some, things that you want to consider with the digital side. And that is why you want to have some of the physical, because obviously if you have it, you hold it, you own it, the value is there, it's recognized all around the world,
Yep.
things of that nature. So it's just I never really understood the argument of, do I buy gold and silver or get into crypto? It's like you said, do both. But also look at it as crypto is your investments, gold and silver is your savings. You wouldn't put your savings up for risk. And invest your savings. Now, sure, that means that you're saving, the money you put in might grow at a greater rate, but it also can turn south for you as well.
Yeah.
That's why you keep your savings, and your investments, your investments.
Yeah, and I'm, not to be funny, but I tell Aaron this all the time. Eventually, out here, I don't know when, but it's gonna become a Book of Eli world.
yeah.
Yeah,
Post-apocalyptic.
it's
It's
gonna
gonna be
it's gonna
nuts.
get crazy out here. And like you said, if you don't have access to your digital, you got what you got in your book bag, walking down the street like Eli, and chopping people's arms off if need be. It's gonna get ugly out here. I'm telling you. And people be, because I know a lot of preppers keep silver. They
Yeah.
Yeah,
keep guns,
doomsday
they keep
preppers.
Oh
Yeah.
they
yeah.
keep bullets, they
Oh
keep
yeah.
handguns, they got
And
everything.
Oh yeah.
silver.
And silver, they
They
got
Five
have
five
silver.
like
six seven six two. Let's get it.
tons of monster boxes.
Yeah, and so they
All right.
know if something come, they ready, and they know to have something tangible on hand, right? Something that somebody will take if you need this, you need that. You got to trade for water. You got something tangible that you could trade
And the
when.
doomsday
Yeah,
preppers like the divisibility of the silver,
yeah,
right? Because gold is the visibility of it. It's great to kind of compress your silver,
yeah.
but with the silver in a post-apocalyptic event, the visibility and portability of it
And you know, they
is
all
perfect for
people in the
that
silver
environment.
space like to tell you to get the constitutional silver. You
It's
know,
even
and
more
get a
divisible.
bag of those quarters, nickels, and dimes
Yeah.
was it 65,
And
Yep.
then
64?
64.
Yeah, get a bag of those, have a bag of those sitting around. And, you
and
know,
then
just be
even in that
prepared.
example, I was just gonna say, even at an example like that scenario you gave, who's gonna take Bitcoin? Who most people, businesses aren't ready for it. People aren't ready. Your farmer, might not have a wallet, but your farmer knows gold and silver. Everybody knows gold and silver, but your farmer might not be able to take the crypto or, want to take the crypto,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with dollars. That popular Netflix film, Leave the World Behind.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a scene where, they were about to get in the shootout over the medicine.
Yeah.
And he offered him $1,000 cash. And he was like, man, who knows if that's any good? The government, who knows? I don't know if that, $1,000 is worth anything anymore. If the government went down, what is the paper worth? But he would have took that silver or gold if he had some, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They should have put that in the movie. He should have said, I got some silver for you. He should have gave the right there in the spot. But they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to think like that. So they ain't going to do that.
Yeah, so you just got to keep a balance. It's a balance, like you said. Just be prepared.
Well, hold on
Be
a second.
prepared.
I do want to piggyback on that because movies are for programming. Imagine if they did add that to the movie, how many people the very next day, especially since, wasn't it like 24, 48 hours later, Elon had the voluntary recall on the
The
EVs?
Teslas, on the
Right, so
Teslas.
everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's happening!" Everybody would have went and bought hundreds of ounces of silver
Oh, yeah.
if they did add that little caveat to the movie. And they're very methodical and strategic when they're making movies. So somebody probably thought it was like, "Do not put that in there."
That's why I said.
They don't. Yeah, they don't want to know that.
That's why I said the Book of Eli world is coming. But I
Yeah.
don't know. Who knows?
If Book of Eli World is coming, y'all should also stack up on chapstick. Because they were using cat oil or something weird. Yeah, chapstick gonna be a currency. Y'all better have some. He said y'all showing y'all age. That's so funny. These youngsters ain't wanting gold and silver. They most likely will be the ones running things. Oh, you better. All right now. He said Victor Bros represent.
Yeah, I got my white aviator on today. So out. So yeah.
I called them Cousin and Victor.
Yeah.
I knew you was gonna think that was funny.
So let me pivot. Let me start talking to you about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Bitcoin price? It had a nice rise today, I think.
It did, but it went back down to 70. So
Okay.
70 is good. It's good. It's good.
It's good.
It's
But how do you see the Bitcoin rise?
Yeah. It's funny. The narrative with cryptocurrencies was to be against the system, a way to move money and do value out of the system. But then we get all excited when the system now gets in it. Of course, they're going to take control over it, And but as far as price appreciation, Bitcoin is definitely going much higher. I easily seeing it going to 200, 300,000 relatively soon, and then probably 1 million after that. And mainly just because of when you put it against the backdrop of a collapsing financial debt-based system, the dollars, fiat currencies around the world are collapsing, market crash, overvalued markets and things of this nature. Anything is better than holding dollars. And when you realize that these institutions are buying 10,000, 12,000 Bitcoin every single day with the ETFs, and there are only 900 Bitcoins made per day right now, and then after the halving, there's only going to be 450 Bitcoin made per day. Obviously, that's a massive demand, and you have more countries that are going to be buying Bitcoin, more institutions that want exposure, because while we do the real crash happens in the traditional markets, people are going to be looking for yield. People are going to be looking for gains. They're going to want to move their money into the markets that are growing and moving. And those assets are metals and blockchain and crypto. So Bitcoin is going higher. It's definitely going higher.
I wanted to know if you could explain this something to people, because I don't know, I explained it a little bit but I don't think people get what I'm trying to say. Maybe you could explain it better than me. And so, what I tell people, there was a time when there was parity to the dollar. There was a time when Bitcoin cost $1 and $1 was $1, right? As parity, they were right there. So it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, but all these years later, now $1, one Bitcoin is worth $70,000, and people see that as Bitcoin going up. But if you reverse look at it, you can see how much the dollar has crashed and how much parity it has lost from being 1 to 1. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a way to look at it. When we're looking at, inflation in anything, what is inflation? Inflation is the loss in purchasing power of that currency in which you're buying something in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your house didn't, upgrade or evolve, so much so to where it's hundreds of thousands of dollars more. It's the dollar has lost more value. You know what I mean? That's really what you're saying. In the inverse, if we see something going up, it just means that what we're paying for it in has went down. So you
Mm-hmm.
now need more of it to pay for that same thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, the dollar losing its value. Um, and when you're looking at other assets and prices and you see them going up, it's also a correlation of because the dollar's going down.
Okay. So I always want people to just see that inverse correlation of, so they know how much the dollar's going down and not just looking at Bitcoin's going up, but understand, because I said this on a couple shows, that I know we want these numbers, we want 100,000, 200, 250,000, but understand the dollar is going to be going way down. And now you may have to pay more for gas. No, you will have to pay more for gas, eggs, milk, cheese, stuff like that. So yes, Bitcoin will be way up there, but the dollar will have lost so much more purchasing power. Was that true?
That the dollar is going down. Say that last part again. I'm sorry.
Well, just that, say Bitcoin was 250,000, then
Yeah.
that means the dollar is a lot more weak than it is
It
today.
has dwindled away to nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's obviously more people buying in it, in the supply and demand going up. The demand going up and the supply, and then more people buying it, which drives up the price as well. But
Mm,
yes, you can look at it as people wanting to get out of the dollar and out of the stock market, the rig manipulated traditional markets, and get into blockchain and crypto. So yes, I would agree. More that scenario is more so for like gold, really, where there's a hedge against inflation, like gold and silver, where that's really an account for people
right.
distrusting the fiat currency, and you're seeing gold and silver rise
Hmm.
because of people trying to hedge against that inflation and financial crisis. But Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are getting that attribution as well, and is it just an indicator as well as it's the deceleration of the dollar or the acceleration of the death of the dollar. Yeah.
Mm, okay. So
Yeah.
I got a few more. I don't keep you too long, but I mean, if you got some time, I can't
Yeah,
keep
no,
you.
that's good.
Uh,
It's good. Yeah.
I seen you had said in your live today that you've been traveling a lot. You said you're the
Yeah.
traveling man.
Traveling.
Shout
Yeah.
out,
Traveling man.
traveling man. Shout out to Most Def. You the
Yeah.
traveling man. So, how do you see when you go different places and use different currencies? How do you see them? Like, I know, Belize using the dollar, or they
Yeah.
have
So in Belize it was 2 to 1. So every dollar was two Belize dollars. Yeah.
okay. Do you see getting value when you go to these different countries for
Well,
your dollar?
obviously,
You have to trade them in or exchange them for the new currency.
depends on what country you go to. When I went to Barcelona, Spain, man, they didn't even want the dollar. They were like, "What I'm gonna do with this?" They ain't want it. You put $100 on the table. She ain't even want it. The waitress ain't want it. She's like, "What I'm gonna do with that?" So then, some places they don't want the dollar. There are a lot of places around the world they don't want the dollar. The dollar also is a symbol of American, or U.S. imperialism and things and what they've been doing around the world. So people don't, want to deal with the dollar. Um, and So it depends on, it depends on what country, you're going to, but
Yeah.
all fiat currencies are crashing. And because of the United States ability to just continue to print and manipulate, it makes the dollar look like it's the best out of all of them, but they're all trash. It's all, that these are the shit coins, as we say, like, fiat is garbage. Um, so but the dollar just looks the best out of all of it. You know what I mean? But it's all trash. It's all pieces of paper. You know, but the dollar is the one that looks the best out of all of them.
Okay. Now I was gonna ask you. I may have asked you this before, but I'll ask it again for new people in the room. What are your thoughts, or how do you feel about President Bukele of El Salvador and what he's doing over there with Bitcoin? How do you feel about that? Do you like it? Does it seem like a good idea for people to get involved in? We spent some time in El Salvador. We really liked it, but it was early, right? It seems like they got a lot more adoption since we went.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, they got
In
a
the
lot more
last
adoption.
24 months, they've
Yeah,
gotten a lot done.
so do you think? What do you think about El Salvador?
Yeah, I mean, I like when I catch some of the speeches and what the president is saying, and a lot of these presidents and a lot of these other countries, they're waking up to what's going on to the financial system, and the imperialism and things that have been going on, and it's just another sign of people and countries wanting to de-dollarize, and hedge, and no longer peg their currency to the U.S. or the fiat system. And obviously, that at this point in time, it was a brilliant move for them to get into Bitcoin, with Bitcoin now at all-time highs, and that being able to help them and their people out of poverty, and so they can develop and do other things. And so, yeah, anybody who get Bitcoin, earlier on, and now it's worth more, that's a obviously good decision.
And and just for the people to know that if you go to El Salvador, their currency is the U.S. dollar, right? They had a coup back in 1996. They lost their currency. Now they had to use the U.S. dollar. So he really wanted to get his country off that, so he could
Off the
make
dollar.
Bitcoin legal tender.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, either
So he,
either they're getting off the dollar, or their currency, they have to give themselves some options, because it's just, it's either it's backed by something, which most of them are not, or you adopt Bitcoin. Um, but
oh,
yeah.
so this
I do want to make a quick
oh,
point.
go ahead. I get ready.
So, cousin T. Will Line, Man for Hire, and I were been chatting in the chat. He doesn't see the utility, or the way he sees it is Bitcoin is the optimization of money, and gold would be like, so Bitcoin would be like an electric vehicle or a flying car, and gold would be like a gas guzzler. He's seeing it as, instead of
Well,
analog, he's seeing it like
the thing
antiquity.
is that there is no Bitcoin, there is no blockchain, there is no internet without silver. It's somebody who doesn't like silver or gold, and you only like crypto, you don't really understand what even gives you access to crypto, or how it comes about. It's minerals. It's these rare earth minerals. Silver is an electrical conductor. It has properties, and these metals are even how we're able to communicate right now.
Yep.
So now when you add the industrial demand, and then you add the now it returning to uh it's money status. It's returning back to money, not just a commodity, but money, and then an industrial asset as well. That even gives it greater value. But there is no Bitcoin or blockchain or internet without silver. So you can't, or even gold or these metals. You have to give them their due respect, because you wouldn't be able to even have Bitcoin without them.
But I also want to make a further point historically. When they took gold off the standard completely, it was also the dollar,
Yeah.
right? When they took gold off the dollar standard completely, and all of the other currencies were tethered to the dollar, which was tethered to gold. One of the things that they did on purpose was to get the American people to not have value for silver and gold. Like, that was on purpose, that there was going to come a generation who didn't understand silver, didn't understand gold because they didn't interact with it.
Yeah.
They've never seen it outside of jewelry or what have
Yeah,
you.
jewelry.
And that is exactly what they wanted. They wanted this generation. It's probably probably if they did it completely in the 70s, they knew the 80s babies would absolutely not have a value for silver and gold because they never come into contact with it. They don't interact with it. They're not exposed to it. And this is one of the things that I kind of want to bring to Cousin T. Will Line's attention, that was on purpose.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a value for it because you're not exposed to it, because you don't interact with it, you're not going to want to possess it. And that's what they wanted. They wanted people, you turn in all your gold, turn in all your silver, and then let's see if we can bring up generations who don't understand or have value for it.
And you got to remember, like you said, the
Great
80s
point.
babies. You know how hard it would have been to buy gold and silver. There was no internet.
It was so difficult.
Yeah, so you gotta. I don't even know where you go. You had local coin dealers and stuff like that, but it was hard.
Because even back then, you couldn't do it at a bank.
Yeah, it was hard to source it, so it just kind of discouraged you from even trying to have it.
And those who did have access to it were typically the 1%ers who knew to go right to the exchanges, bypass all of the little people and so on and so forth. So I just kind of want to bring to his attention that what he's saying is true, right? You're asking these youngsters to take an interest in something that they may perceive as antiquity, right? It's like having a grandfather clock in your house when your supercomputer cell phone has the clock down to whatever the naval minute is, right? But I just want to bring to your attention that that's exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted you to have that type of thought towards silver, that thought towards gold. They wanted to remove the value of it from the everyday average person, generation after generation after generation. My grandfather, my family's from Guyana, y'all know that.
Shout out to Guyana.
My grandfather used to work in Venezuela. He used to get paid in gold. I think he used to get paid something like 40 troy ounces or something ridiculous. He had like some big kind of position as a foreman. I don't know what they were building or if they were mining. I'm not sure what he did, but he got paid in gold. He didn't even get paid. Obviously, he's in Venezuela. He didn't even get paid in the British pound, which is what, and the sterling and all of the stuff that colonial Guyana had, right? So he was like walking around like he was the it, right?
Yeah.
And my grandmother would have interacted with the sterling, with the British pound, the silver, and the gold that her father used to get paid in. By the time my mom came around, they weren't doing that anymore. So that generation, and it's even further than 70s, right, are still kind of far removed from silver, from gold, because they started using the paper with the queen's face all over it. And they're, once she gets going, then I'm her next generation, and my children are that third generation. You can kind of start to see, and my parents are older, there's probably 2 generations can fit in between there. How the generations in their collective consciousness now have a severe lack of value of the silver and gold, and that's exactly what they wanted. Crypto Rick, we were talking about how megatons of gold can be missing off of the exchange. How? Because people are doing backdoor dealings. That's how. There has to be a value in it if China is the largest holder of gold, and JP Morgan, that's an American company in the United States, is the largest holder of silver because of the industrial market.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of shift your perception to understand why you may feel like the youngsters today don't give a crap about silver gold. He brought up Peter Schiff and his son, and I get that, right? Schiff is the gold maxi. His son is the Bitcoin maxi. You can have both. It's not a flying car or a EV. It's actually 2 tier 1 assets. They're 2 first-class commodities that you're holding. So one's tangible, one isn't. And it's not really tangible, especially to our community, on purpose. They don't want you to have exposure to wealth. And we've talked about the interaction with a significant amount of silver and a significant amount of gold changes your mind. It literally changes your mindset. to a growth mindset, and they most certainly don't want that. That's why they push the narrative in rap videos, music, reality shows, cash, 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 cash,
And
cash.
and one thing I want you to tell them, we spoke
But they
about.
never put, I'm sorry, baby, but
Uh-huh.
they never push assets in music. They never push assets in reality shows. They never talk about assets. All of
Yeah.
these people, your Stevie J's and whoever
Oh
else,
no,
your Cardi B's and so on and so forth, they never talk to you about assets. They only talk to you about cash because that's all they want the people to have, the people they have an influence over. They want you to just have exposure to cash. They really don't want you to get your foot up.
And so I just want you. We spoke about this earlier, silver to
Mm.
gold ratio, and
Yeah.
how how you should be doing your choosing. But a lot of people get discouraged about buying gold because of how much it costs, and they just feel like, oh man, I can't just buy one whole gold ounce, So they just don't even do it.
Right.
And it's like, well, you got to, got to start with the grams and build up in grams, I guess. And they get disturbed with Bitcoin. Like, I can't just buy one whole Bitcoin. So they
Right.
just don't do it. And it's like, man, come on, man. You can still buy little pieces, little chunks,
Right.
and just
In
build
fact,
up. But, they
yeah.
discouraged. Like, if I can't get one whole one,
Mm.
then I don't even want to start with it.
Right.
Do you see that around?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, because they just don't know. They don't know how to
Mhm.
get started. They don't know where to get started. A lot of people don't even understand why they should get started. They
Yeah.
just but no, you can get it in fractions. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
$1 worth of Bitcoin. You can, even with silver and gold now, you can get $1 worth of it and have it leveraged in an account where it will adjust with the value of gold and silver. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's really no excuse. But it's just like, Aaron, you were saying that learning curve, and our people being properly educated, and then purposely manipulating assets down and taking it out of your purview, so you don't understand the value of it, and they get you caught up into something else. And while they're continuing to, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is that central banks are accumulating more gold and silver than they ever have in any time period in history.
Mhm.
Central banks are not accumulating gold at record amounts for no reason. If that was the case, they'd be accumulating just only digital assets or something of that nature. There's a reason why the governments and banks are buying and holding more gold than they ever have at any time period in history. And that's a clue, you know.
So you would say, because I had a question about this article I found, but would you say, as far as President Bukele trying to do things for his country, would you say maybe he might be over leveraged in Bitcoin?
I don't know what their allocation for metals is. I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And what they have access to, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
wouldn't.
Because I know he uses a lot of the money, and it's always comes out that they buy more and more Bitcoin. So I didn't
Yeah,
know if they were over leveraged. He doesn't really put out anything on his other holdings that I
Mm-mm.
see, but that he's done
yeah,
it
I don't
well,
know.
because I forget the average that he averaged in at, but I want to say it was like 9,800. So he's done well for his country. He's young. He is, he's kind of, thinking forward. But they got this new article out about El Salvador. It says El Salvador is to offer 5,000 free passports to highly skilled immigrants. So I guess that would be me. But they said the president is going to offer 5,000 passports to highly skilled people. They got scientists, engineers, doctors, artists, and so on. And then he's saying there'll be no tax. And with a lot of people working from home, working remotely, does this seem interesting to certain people if you're willing to move to El Salvador, which has been reported to be the safest country in the Western Hemisphere? That's what they
Mm,
said. That's what they reported. I don't know. But he did a scoop and round up and got everybody up out of there.
yeah.
A lot of people on social media kind of saying maybe he's a dictator now. I don't know. I ain't gonna call him that, but
Mm,
that's what the people were saying. What
right.
you think about that? Would that be enticing to somebody to go get a Salvadoran passport for free if you're highly skilled?
Yeah, I think you need to be on as many grids as possible, highly skilled or not.
Mhm.
If you can get dual citizenship, if you can have land in other countries, if you can set up corporation in the other countries and things of this nature, it just makes sense. Why would you not, give yourself those options. So yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Having assets, having your wealth and passports and things in different countries. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's real competitive, but I'm gonna apply because I do work in tech. I don't know how skilled you would have to be, but
Mm,
it won't hurt. All they can do is say no, or you're 5,020 instead of 5,000, right?
right.
But I think, for people out there who
Hmm.
do have a very particular skill set,
Yeah,
you should apply.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like you said, just to get that second passport. And like we said, we visited El Salvador. It's a very nice place. It's a small island.
And it
Uh,
reminds us of Mexico,
yeah,
so
it's got a
the
nice beach.
adjustment would be a little
Yeah, yeah,
different.
it's got a nice beach. It's a little warmer, but it's a
Mm,
nice place. And if he knocked the crime down, then because El Salvador has always been known for being crime ridden with the MS-13 and all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, he did
mm,
a sweep. He got him up off the streets, and
right.
yeah,
And you've got to
yeah,
remember, if he's trying to get big capital to invest, especially in the volcano bonds,
yeah,
he had to by any means necessary. And this is the president. The reason why it seems strange to people is because he actually cares about his country. We've normalized the puppets that we have sitting in the chairs
yeah.
in DC who are for their own self-interest.
Mhm.
It does look odd that he's willing to do whatever it takes for the best interest of the people. So
Yeah,
that's why all of that propaganda is kind of falling on his head, because people are used to, you guys use these seats of power and these positions of power for your own personal interest. You don't care about the people.
yeah, and like as they say, game theory will play out right there in Central America.
Most definitely Central
Because
America for
other
sure.
these other
And
countries,
South.
you already seen it come out. They got a Bitcoin jungle in Costa Rica, a Bitcoin river in Honduras.
Yeah.
So everybody's starting to try to get a little Bitcoin adoption in that region. So he's got that, he's got that going in that region. And we've even heard some things about adoption in Mexico. Is different in Mexico because Mexico has states. So it could be adoption state by state by state by state. Doesn't have to be adopted fully
They're,
by the
they're
president.
working on it.
Yeah, but they're working on this all,
Mexico City right now is in the lead as far as adoption goes,
yeah.
but it is starting to kind of catch
Hmm.
into states further south.
Yeah.
They are starting to come together. One of the main obstacles, obviously, is the education, and your average Mexican citizens unbanked, right? So
Mm,
they don't even really, they're fiat heavy. Even where we live. So Mexico City is an hour and a half away. So the next big city from Mexico City is Toluca, and we're 40 minutes from Toluca. The little place that we live in, I think we can name on one hand the amount of places in the town that take the card. Everybody else is cash only.
Cash heavy.
mm,
So to try to explain Bitcoin is like,
Yeah, man.
it's no small feat, right? Because they don't even
mm,
understand debit. They don't even understand credit, right? The
right.
chip on your card. Simon handed the gas guy one of our metal debit cards, and he was just like, he was looking at it like it was a flying car.
I
Like,
say,
what
man,
Mhm.
is this and
hey
how do
man,
I
get my
use it?
card back,
He
man.
said, there goes the
Yeah,
chip. Just, stick it in the machine.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he just got real nervous just handling
Yeah,
the
get my
card.
stuff back, man. I stopped using it
Mhm.
because people were doing that.
And now our cars in the United States, they're putting the numbers on the back.
Oh
So
yeah,
when you look at the front, like our Cash
Yeah,
App card, my
it's
new
right.
Chase
smooth and everything.
card,
It looked weird.
I think the
Yeah.
Wells Fargo card too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it looked
So
weird to
now when
them.
you hand it to them, they're just looking at it like,
Hey, come
and
on,
you say, oh,
man.
what's on the back? And they go, oh, okay. And then they're
Mm,
comfortable using it. But
right.
like, that's how far behind we are in countries outside of the United States.
And everything, like Aaron always says, everything has its utility.
Everything has its utility.
You go out here. We live in central Mexico, so pretty centralized. It would probably be the equivalent of living like in Chicago, just in the middle, in the east and the west. But you go roll out west to the cowboy country. Now that's where the cartels at. Now they don't play out there, so you got to roll light out to cowboy country. So no silver on you, no cash on you. All you got is your Bitcoin and your phone. So when they try to shake you down and run you down, you're like, oh, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got
Right.
nothing. Right. So you got to be strategic how you move,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. That's why everything has its utility. So you want to have a little something for everything. Be ready for situations that arise,
Yeah.
because it's funny because they usually do arise eventually. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I done got off topic, man. What was it even talking about? Eric, what was you talking about? We got somebody in the chat. We got I see a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm just
long.
gonna mention some things.
Okay.
But yeah,
I got
you
about
can
maybe
go.
10 more minutes. Yeah.
Nope, and then we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much
No.
for joining
I
us,
had it
Crypto.
already. Yeah.
He was just saying like David Banner and Killer Mike talk assets, and then they just like fall off. That's what I'm saying. They want to keep you guys in fiat, and they want to keep you just squandering the fiat that they give you. Bitcoin Shango said, "What up, Tino?" Hi, Crip Work. So as far as the silver and gold conversation, it's really just going to be just for some of the chats that I was reading. It's a preference. It's up to you, right? I really like what Crypto Rick said about invest in Bitcoin and save in silver or gold, or don't, right? It's up to you. It's
Right.
just we feel, and you can call us old, maybe we are old, that it's nice to have tangible wealth in your presence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When
Yes.
people get their tax returns, you see them on social media all the time. They want to take a picture of this rack that they got, all of the 20s, all of the hundreds. You see, in videos, they're using the rack like a cell
The
phone,
brick
acting like,
phone.
yeah, like the brick phone and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, you do have some type of utility for silver and gold. We're not here to persuade anybody. We are not financial advisors. We do not give out financial advice. We are just saying that if you have a chance to have some exposure to it, it could be especially beneficial to you, but your children and grandchildren as well.
Yeah, and not to be like a nerd or anything, but you start buying some, and it starts becoming like a hobby to you.
Yeah.
Like you go find little different coins, like, oh man, I like this coin. I like this coin. I like a Batman coin or something.
The Marvel
Captain
coins,
America
the
coin.
rock
Let me
and
get
roll
that.
coins, the
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
blues
You
coins,
start.
the
Yeah.
apartment.
It'll be fun to you to search for a coin every month. Like, oh, what am I gonna
Or how
get?
often you want to
Yeah,
buy it.
so you'll get into it. It's almost corny like stamp collecting, but
I don't want to keep.
yeah, but yeah. Let me read out the
Yeah.
last, and then we'll let them go.
Yeah.
Um, hey, Bankroll Wealth Builders. Is that my boy Christopher? If so, hello, hello, and thank you for joining us. I love silver and gold.
Yeah.
We want to thank you, Crypto Rick, for just giving us some more depth and breadth and
Yes.
perception about, silver, gold being a tier one asset, just like
Yeah.
Bitcoin's a tier one asset.
Yeah.
We do understand that Bitcoin optimizes the characteristics of sound money, right?
Yeah.
We understand that. We know.
Yeah.
We are just saying,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead. Finish up.
Oh, we were just saying,
I'll get my
right?
closing. I'll get my little closing in a
Yeah.
second. Go ahead.
There's a utility for exposure
Yeah.
to tangible wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to thank Crypto Rick. I do want to hear
Thank
your
you.
final thoughts on
Yeah.
anything that you think that they should know. And for those of you who want to get in touch with Crypto Rick, in the drop down is how you can reach him via Facebook or his Gmail account. And I do want you to introduce at Cross Metals if that is something they want to start their silver journey.
Yeah. So obviously, and once again, thank you for having me on. I'm always excited because I know the value of this information is life changing for those who will really just take a breath, slow down, and really just try to absorb and see the value that we're giving to them. And if they actually take the time to start saving in some of these assets while they're investing and doing other things, it's something that'll be beneficial for them in the short and long term. And with that, I would say, like, obviously now for some people, it's where do I get the gold and silver? And we want to make sure that you get it at the best price, right? We want to make sure that you don't overpay for it. And we want to make sure that you have the ability to take physical possession of it if you want to. And so we have some of the best companies to actually do that. You can get it literally no markup, no premiums. We actually have the best company on the planet to get precious metals from. Every other company is overcharging because that's their business model. They mark up the metal. That's how they make money. What we're doing here is we're actually are giving the people the ability to get it really with no markups, no premiums, the best prices on the market. And so we're fired up about that, because as people start to really wake up to the power of sound money, you know, gold and silver, and as more people want to get more exposure and accumulate more physical gold and silver, they're going to want to get it at the best price. They're going to want to get it from the best company. And this company is doing something that has never been done before in the precious metal space by giving people the ability to get it at the best, you know, the best price. So yeah, definitely make sure you get back to Aaron and Simon, or reach out to me, and we can make sure that you are getting gold and silver at the best price, get it physical, or, you know, have it stored in some of the most secure vaults around the world.
And they ship internationally, which is
Yes.
something that you guys know we've been struggling with. I'm so tired of going through customs, y'all. So for those, because there are a few people who do live all over the world, so that would be good for them as well. We
Yep.
are going to leave you, cousins. We thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back on Saturday. And let us know if you need to get in touch
Yes,
with
sir.
Crypto Rick.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.